Oscar Piastri delivered an absolutely ruthless performance at the Bahrain Grand Prix, steamrolling the field with a level of command and surgical precision that left no breathing room for anyone, not even his teammate, Lando Norris. From the opening lights to the final lap, the Australian drove like a man possessed, sending a thunderous message. He's not just in the championship fight, he fully intends to win it. With only 3 points separating the two McLaren drivers in the standings, the title race is heating up to boiling point. But the bigger question looming now is whether Piastri can sustain this momentum and become McLaren's first world champion since Lewis Hamilton in 2008. And if he does, what will Lando Norris have to say about it? Because let's not forget, Norris hasn't exactly been singing the praises of the McL 39 this year. While Piastri gushes over the car, calling it the best on the grid, Norris has taken a far more skeptical view. The contrast between the two couldn't be starker. One sees a rocket ship, the other sees a stubborn mule. And that difference in perspective is fueling one of the most compelling intra-team rivalries we've seen in years. Norris has been vocal about his frustrations, repeatedly pointing out the car's limitations. Its tricky balance, unpredictable tire behavior, and an overall lack of dominance compared to the Red Bulls and Ferraris of the world. But Oscar, he's not buying any of that doom and gloom narrative. On the contrary, his attitude has been refreshingly candid, almost defiant. After the Bahrain win, Piastri gave a bold post-race interview where he didn't mince words. "I'm not going to shy away from the fact that we've got the best car out there right now. Pretending otherwise wouldn't be honest. Sure, the margins are tight, and one mistake can cost you dearly, but we're in a strong place, and all we can do is keep maximizing that advantage week in, week out." And honestly, it's hard to argue with him. The gaps in qualifying have been razor-thin all season, and Bahrain was no exception. Even during early practice sessions, it looked like McLaren might be trailing by half a second. But qualifying told a different story. A clean lap, a well-timed sector, and suddenly you're on pole. That's how fine the margins are these days. In modern F1, where every tenth of a second is a battle and dirty air wreaks havoc during races, starting at the front has become more crucial than ever. And Piastri has adapted to that reality with surgical efficiency. He knows when it counts and executes with chilling precision. What's becoming increasingly clear is this: McLaren has a legitimate shot at the championship if they can stop their two star drivers from turning the garage into a battlefield. Norris, despite his frustration, remains one of the sharpest racers on the grid. But the mental game is shifting. While Lando casts doubt, Oscar is leaning hard into belief. And in F1, mindset can be just as critical as machinery. So now, the world waits. Can Piastri sustain this scorching pace? Will Norris fight back with a statement drive of his own to silence the critics? Or is this internal tug-of-war about to erupt into something even more dramatic? One thing's for sure, the McLaren garage is no longer a calm place, and the 2025 season just got a whole lot more intense. It'd be easy to chalk up Norris's struggles in Bahrain to his grid position and the penalty that hampered his race. Those factors definitely didn't help. But to say that's all it was would miss the real story. The difference in results came down to execution. And that's where Oscar Piastri shined. His race management was near flawless, smooth, calculated, and eerily efficient. That's what truly separated them in the end. While Lando was busy firefighting, Oscar was laying the foundations of a championship campaign. Think back to pre-season. Piastri boldly declared that he believed he could fight for the 2025 title. At the time, many brushed it off as youthful enthusiasm, maybe even naive ambition. But now, it's not looking so far-fetched, is it? But race by race, what started as a bold prediction is beginning to morph into a sobering reality. If this momentum keeps snowballing, Norris will be staring at a daunting uphill battle for the rest of the season. Because right now, it's not Lando, it's Oscar Piastri who's looking more and more like the next world champion. What makes this internal McLaren battle so compelling isn't just the lap times, it's the mental tug-of-war. while Piastri appears perfectly in sync with the MCL39, squeezing out every ounce of performance with mechanical elegance. Norris seems to be spiraling into a frustrating disconnect with the exact same machine. A car that, to be clear, can deliver results, something Norris himself proved with his triumph in Melbourne. Yet instead of riding that wave, Lando keeps slamming on the psychological brakes. He's been unusually downbeat, speaking openly about his struggles to find the right setup window, how the car simply isn't working for him, and how it refuses to click. His comments have left fans puzzled and pundits scratching their heads. In one particularly revealing interview, Norris admitted, "I wish I knew how to gel with the car better. Honestly, I don't. And even if I did, I'm not sure I'd be able to explain it. When you're an athlete, a driver, whatever, it's just a feeling. You know when things line up. When you're confident. When the car becomes an extension of you. And right now, it's not like that at all. Even in Australia, win or not, I never felt comfortable. I never felt confident. It's the complete opposite of where I want to be." That kind of raw honesty is rare and welcome, but it also opens the door to speculation. Some analysts are beginning to wonder, is Norris deliberately dramatizing his struggles to build a heroic underdog narrative? One where any future victory feels even more earned, more dramatic? If that's the plan, it's a risky one. Because while he's tangled in psychological knots and managing expectations, Piastri is out there doing the one thing that cuts through all the noise, winning. Let's be clear, the margins between them aren't massive. This isn't a Red Bull-esque blowout. In terms of raw pace, Norris and Piastri are still within striking distance of each other. But Bahrain underscored one brutal truth. When you've got clean air, tire control, and race management on your side, the difference between a superstar and a struggler becomes cavernous. Piastri didn't just win. He dismantled the competition with calculated, clinical precision. Reflecting on his dominant form, Oscar offered a glimpse into the harmony he's found with his car. "It's a car that allows me to string together consistent laps, and it has the pace where it counts. I felt pretty solid all season, but Bahrain was something else. The car gave me exactly what I needed: confidence, control, responsiveness, everything I needed to push and still feel in command." That's light years away from Norris's perspective. And what's even more baffling is how Lando seems to contradict himself. After a messy qualifying session, he claimed the car wasn't anywhere near the best on the grid. But just moments later, when asked about race day expectations, he casually predicted that Piastri would dominate and lap the field, while declaring his own goal was simply to finish second. It's a strange cocktail of fatalism and submission, hardly the fire and ice attitude you'd expect from a title contender. To make matters worse, Norris's recent interviews carry a scent of self-sabotage. For a driver with years of top-level experience, his tone is surprisingly defeatist. After Bahrain, he summed up his race with, "It was a tough one, no doubt. Too many errors, bad timing, poor positioning at the start. A messy race. I'm disappointed we couldn't lock in a McLaren 1-2, that would have been amazing for the team. But there were positives too. It was a fun race. Some decent overtakes. Hard racing, as it should be. Honestly, I'm surprised I'm getting any results at all, considering how I feel in the car. It just isn't clicking. And I don't know why." That kind of statement is tough to digest. It's more than an admission of struggle, it borders on resignation. A quiet waving of the white flag. And while Norris navigates this fog of doubt, Oscar Piastri is writing his story the old-fashioned way, with results, resilience, and razor-sharp execution. And when your teammate is thriving under the exact same conditions, it casts a harsh spotlight on your own struggles. Even McLaren's team principal, Andrea Stella, has openly acknowledged that they've had one of the most competitive packages on the grid since the season kicked off. The tools are in place. The car is working. One driver is exploiting its full potential. The other is still grasping for answers in the dark. Bahrain didn't just widen the points gap, It pulled back the curtain on a deeper psychological fracture inside the McLaren camp. What we're watching unfold isn't just a difference in results, it's a divergence in mindset. Two drivers. Same machinery. Yet one is riding a wave of confidence, momentum, and clarity, while the other is caught in a spiral of hesitation and overthinking. And if this pattern holds, the 2025 title fight might not be about who's quicker on a Saturday. It might be about who survives the psychological trench warfare taking place inside the McLaren garage. Lando Norris, once the fresh face of the team's future, is now haunted by the ghosts of a comment he made back in 2020. One that, at the time, felt bold, maybe even cocky. He had scoffed at Lewis Hamilton's title pursuits, suggesting the Brit only had to beat two drivers to win a championship. Fast forward to 2025, and the irony couldn't be more brutal. Now that Norris finds himself in a genuine title fight, one that's been on since the lights went out in Melbourne, that old soundbite has come back to slap him in the face like a boomerang with teeth. And the stakes? They've never been higher. Every race is another test of mental fortitude. And there's a growing sense among Paddock insiders and F1 pundits that Norris might not have the steel to survive it. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko didn't sugarcoat his view. He suggested Piastri seems more mentally resilient than Norris, even if Lando might have a slight edge on raw one-lap pace. It was a cutting comparison, especially given how closely matched the two McLaren drivers have been on track. Former F1 driver-turned-analyst Christian Ehlers went even further, doubling down on the psychological angle. He warned that projecting negativity to the media after a tough weekend, like Norris did after Bahrain, sends all the wrong signals. Ehlers said Norris looked disoriented, mentally drained, and emotionally scattered, not exactly the posture of someone gearing up for a world championship run. Let's break down the numbers for a moment. Norris had a 10-point cushion over Piastri after the first race. That lead? Gone. Completely erased. Just 3 points separate them now. And with the pendulum clearly swinging toward the Australian, it's not hard to envision bare-knuckle brawls brewing in every upcoming qualifying and race. What's more, it's not just Piastri keeping pace anymore. He's starting to seize control. Adding another layer to this internal storm is the increasingly contradictory tone Norris has adopted lately. His narrative about the car, his team, and his own performances doesn't seem to align with the reality on track. This isn't a struggling backmarker outfit. This is arguably one of the strongest technical platforms on the grid. Even Max Verstappen didn't hesitate to stir the pot, publicly claiming that if he were driving the MCL 39, he wouldn't be anywhere near the midfield. That remark stung, and Lando clearly didn't take it well. Norris's response was defensive and pointed. He can say whatever he wants. I honestly don't care. People are free to believe what they want. I think Oscar and I are both solid drivers. Maybe he's better at certain things, but not everything. I respect Max, but let's not pretend every word he says is gospel. He's welcome to try our car anytime. I'd love to see the disappointment on his face when he gets out. Let's be real for a second. Anyone who's actually watched the MCL 39 carve through corners, holding an absurdly stable front grip and requiring minimal steering correction, knows full well that Verstappen probably wouldn't be disappointed. The car is a weapon, arguably one of the most well-balanced and responsive designs McLaren has ever fielded. So Norris's retort felt more like bravado than fact. Here's the kicker. Last season, Norris was feeling the heat from Verstappen. But now, in a twist of fate, it's not an external rival pushing him into the fire. It's the guy sitting across the garage. And for a top driver, that's a nightmare scenario. Being outshone not by a different team, but by your own teammate? That's a bitter pill to swallow. Worse yet, Norris has a long-standing reputation for being emotionally reactive. We've seen the signs before: radio outbursts, interviews tinged with frustration, subtle blame-shifting when things don't go his way. But with a championship on the line, those emotional cracks are no longer charming quirks. They're potential liabilities. To McLaren's credit, they reshuffled their internal policies ahead of 2025. The infamous papaya protocols that once enforced team harmony were relaxed, allowing both drivers more freedom to fight each other. At the time, it was seen as a bold move, empowering two hungry racers to push themselves to the limit. But now, it might backfire on Norris if Piastri keeps ascending while Lando slides further behind. Take the Chinese Grand Prix, for example. One mistake in qualifying, and suddenly the dynamic flips. Piastri goes from being the hunted to the hunter. And Norris? He's left playing defense. With all this swirling around, one can't help but wonder, has Piastri already shown he has championship DNA? Based on everything we've seen so far in 2025, the answer may be yes. Focused. Clinical. Oscar is ticking all the boxes. Meanwhile, Norris seems to be chasing shadows, struggling to match his teammates' output, emotionally rattled when things don't go to plan, and increasingly brittle under pressure. So the question now isn't just about points. It's about presence. It's about who owns the moment. Are we witnessing the rise of McLaren's next monarch? Is Oscar Piastri already stepping into the realm of elite drivers while Norris watches the crown slip through his fingers? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And when you're done, click the video on your screen right now for even more insight into McLaren's electrifying internal showdown.